Hey, welcome everybody. It is week 4 of our Big Picture in the House program. I can't believe the weeks have gone by so fast. So right now we are in I believe our newest exhibit we have at the Figge right now called Magnetic West. And there's something special about this exhibit. It's kind of hard to tell from this big open angle here, but everything we've talked about so far has either been a painting or a sculpture. So this whole exhibit is, I'm pretty sure, 100% made of photography. Now it's photographers from all walks of life, but they have one common thing, and that is their vision of the West. So the reason why the West is so important is it's always been seen as this kind of like mysterious place and a place that everybody wants to travel to, right? From, back in the times when we learned about history where people want to go out to the wild, wild West and, become like settlers of the new land, to even today you hear about people wanting to go out west to travel, right? Like California and all those places. And just think of like, what does that mean to you? When somebody says the West, it can mean a whole bunch of different things. So the photographers here have done a really great job at kind of covering all the different themes that the West has to provide. And they all give their different, what we would call, perspective on what that means to them. And I think it's a really great exhibit. And you can kind of tell from this whole image here that we have so many pictures that I feel like from people that are young to old, they can really get something out of this.
Hi everybody, it's good to be back again. As Kelsey explained, we're in week number 4 and you are standing here in a wonderful exhibit called Magnetic West, and it's full of beautiful photography, which is sort of, for many people, kind of a newer art form that's really come forth, especially in recent times. One of the artists that we have in our exhibit is an artist by the name of Wendy Red Star. Wendy Red Star actually had an exhibition here at the Figge a number of years ago, so we're familiar with her work. We even own some of her work in our collection. But this series right here really speaks to me because it really takes place right on the reservation that Wendy Red Star is from. So she is actually from the Crow tribe. And this series is called Home is Where My Teepee Is. And she has, as you can see, a series of 4 collaged frames. So when we talk about collaged, we're talking about a number of different works that are compiled together to create one kind of thought. And when we put all of these together, all 4 frames with the different pieces in it, it really has this large impact. You can even see by the size how compared to my height and how tall it all is and how wide it all is, it really gives us this idea of a big voice, which I think is really powerful in what Wendy Red Star is trying to convey. So Home is Where My Teepee Is focuses on different types of dwellings and places that we feel the sense of home. So up in this corner, she has a series of houses that are on the reservation. A lot of times these are houses that are, they're called HUD houses, which are subsidized houses. Up here, we have a series of churches that are part of the reservation. And so this is where, of course, we know if we go to a church or we pass by a church, this is a place where people can worship. And a lot of times it's with modern day ideas. Down here, we have a series of cars. And I thought it was interesting, a lot of these cars are much older cars. They almost appear not to even really be running or functioning. There's actually some X's on some of them. So these are, in some ways, very comparable to what you might have thought about in the Old West as something like of an old relic or tombstone or a piece of the past. And then over here, we have what we call, in her Crow people, they refer to these as sweat lodges. Now, it's not a place where you sit inside and get all hot and sweaty. Really, the idea behind a sweat lodge ties right back to her ancestry, where a lot of the ancient traditions and beliefs are performed and held in these little kind of huts. Now, if you can't really quite see, but there's a lot of different kind of a dome-like figure. Kind of think of like a tent when you go camping. And they have blankets, some in bright colors, some are kind of worn and tattered, and they have just one opening so that you can sit inside and really take that time to be thoughtful and bring out your practices, especially for those who are part of the Crow people. So there are many different ways we can think of home, and that's one of the themes that we see here in Magnetic West.
So the piece I've chosen for today is a photography piece called TV Indians by an artist named Kara Romero, and she has a very interesting concept to her work. So basically what she likes to do is take the idea of tradition and identity and mix it with like modern ideas. So we can clearly see that here. We have many people from native backgrounds, and they're wearing their traditional garb, as you can see, but they're standing in front of, what does it look like? TVs, a whole bunch of mountains of TVs. But it's kind of interesting too, because instead of being in a place where we think we might see a TV, right? Like in your living room or maybe your bedroom, they're out in the middle of a field, kind of like they're mishmashing it together, which is kind of similar to what we talked about in About Face, mixing two different things together, right? Well, the whole reason she explores this idea is because when she was in college, she took one of her very first photography classes, and she told the other students that she was working with that she was from a native background. She comes from a tribe called the Chemehuevi, which are originally based out in California, and everybody, of course, asked her like a bunch of questions, and they didn't realize that native people still live to this day. She was surprised that a lot of people think that native people are something from a past. You know, you read about them in your history books and you hear about like the Wild West and cowboys and Indians, but she's like, no, we are a real group of people. We come from various different backgrounds, we speak different languages, and we're still living and thriving today. So she made it a mission to kind of base her photography from then on out to reflect that, showing how people of native descent are also living and trying to thrive in accordance with modern culture. So let's go back to the word identity. So do you know what the word identity means? So identity is a big part of her work, and that basically means who you are as a person. And of course that can mean a whole bunch of different things, just like how we talked about earlier, that saying the West can mean a whole bunch of different things. When you hear that one word, what does that mean to you? Same with identity. When you hear that, does it mean your background, like where you come from, like maybe what culture or country your family originally comes from? Does it mean I am from a family of 5 people? Does it mean that I have brown hair and brown eyes? Identity can mean a whole bunch of different things. So that is one of the reasons I really enjoy Kara Romero's work. Hello everybody, and welcome back to week 4 of Big Picture in the House. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's week 4 already. Doing a collage based off of mysterious places. So we are getting this idea from our last talk we did for the exhibit for Magnetic West. And if you remember for that talk, we focused all on this photography exhibit that was all featured different themes from the West. So it kind of took the idea of the American West and it more like, what does it mean to you? Because the photography exhibit really explained what it meant to all these different photographers from all different walks of life, because many people even today see the West as this kind of mysterious place, and it's a big travel destination for a lot of people, especially out like to go out like to California. So I wanted to take the idea and kind of make my own art piece with it. Now today we're actually going to be inspired by Magnetic West. So what that means is my piece of art you're going to see here today is not going to be an exact copy of what you might think of as like the West. So instead, I just want to show you how that even though you're inspired by something doesn't mean you have to make it look exactly like it. So I'm taking the ideas behind Magnetic West, but taking it in my own idea of my own mysterious place. So for that, actually, we're going to use the theme of Japan, and I'll explain why in a minute. But let's go over our supplies we're going to need first off. So the first thing you're going to need, of course, for any collage is you're going to need a piece of paper right here. This is an 11 by 14 size, but you can use any size you want. If you don't have paper, you can even just use like a big piece of cardboard. I know a lot of people are getting a lot of packages these days, so they could just even use a big piece of cardboard that's off of like an Amazon box or something like that. And think of this as, remember, for your collage, you don't want to, we're going to be doing a lot of cutting today. You don't want to cut this piece of paper up because it's going to be basically your canvas. You're going to need some kind of base to glue and to color on. So leave this paper alone. Also, I would suggest if you can get different shades of paper, that'd be great too. And then of course for collage, you're going to need something to cut up. So today what we're going to use, the reason why I chose Japan as my theme, is I have these really cool calendars that are older calendars, and I don't they have these really pretty pictures. I don't know if you can see inside of them. So these really pretty pictures here. A lot of them are based off of Japanese woodblock prints. And these are old calendars. I can't use these anymore, but I don't really want the paper to go to waste. So I thought this would be fun to cut up for the collage. But you know, anything you have that's kind of that you think would make a really good picture. So a calendar. I know a lot of people don't have magazines anymore, but of course a magazine. You can print off pictures. You could cut up old photos. Anything that you think you could use. You're going to need something to add color, so we suggested crayons or markers. We also have, you could use color pencils here, and then actually I have something fun that I know a lot of you guys use in school a lot, and that is oil pastels, which is right here. So I know, hopefully you guys still have them from school. Usually the Crayola brand works fine, but I thought because we haven't had oil pastels yet in our activity, we could use these. These are going to be really fun to work with. If you want to blend well, you can also use a paper towel to help blend with your oil pastels, or you can just use your fingers, that's fine too. You're going to need scissors, of course, to cut up your paper, a glue or a glue stick, and then if you want to add some darkness to your pages, like you know, kind of like what we say that we call an outline, you could use a Sharpie or like a ballpoint pen. And then if you want to do some sketching, you could use a pencil too. I just have a mechanical pencil right here. So, but I like usually with the color pencils or the oil pastels, I like to just go right in, so I don't really use the pencil. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we need to decide what kind of picture we're going to go for. So, I already cut out some pictures from my calendar, as you can see right here. So I'm going to use these as my first idea for the, I guess, mysterious place. So let's see, I really like these birds here. So I think I'm going to cut these out first. So let's go ahead, we'll cut these out together. So we have these look like cranes, if I'm not mistaken. So I kind of like this big guy. Maybe I won't cut them both out. I really like this big guy right here. I think it'd be kind of cool to put him in our paper. Like this. And what I thought was interesting is about the Magnetic West exhibit is we kind of briefly talked about this, how it is an all photography exhibit, which I feel like at the Figgy we don't get too many of. A lot of the exhibits are usually your typical paintings or sculptures, or sometimes it's mixed media, so there'll be some photography blended in with it. But this one is really cool, and it's all different photographers too. It's not just one photographer's work and that's it. It's a whole bunch blended together, and I like the idea of how they all have their different interpretation of what the West means to them. So it kind of gives so basically anybody who goes to see the exhibit, it gives them an idea of maybe something they can relate to, because I know a lot of people have hard times when they go to some exhibits. They can't really, sometimes they have nothing they can relate to, or maybe they don't know what's going on. They're kind of like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to get out of this exhibit. So that's always interesting as well. So you can decide how much you want to actually cut out versus how much you want to draw. If you want the whole thing to be made out of paper, that's fine too. All right, last but not least, we're going to have the mountain in there, because you can't have a Japanese landscape without a mountain. That is what most of these pictures are known for, is mountain ranges. All right, so I'm going to leave some of this in. Kind of fun to like mix and match. And you know what, a really fun thing you could do with this is if I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Godzilla, but you could have like fun stuff, like to make it more like mysterious and just kind of like you know what we call it's called like surrealism, where it's almost like a dreamlike state. You could add in some really fun things to it too, like a Godzilla monster, or like draw something to make it not look so serious. So all right, so we got our pieces out. So you can do this a couple different ways. You can go ahead and color first and then add on the pieces, but I find sometimes when you use oil pastels that it's really hard to glue on top of them just because of the oil. Sometimes you might have to color around it. You can also kind of lay your stuff out so you can see, you know, it's almost like a big giant puzzle. oil pastels today. I was going to use the color pencils, but I think these are going to be fun. So you guys, everybody kind of uses oil pastels differently, so don't feel like you have to do it the same way I am. But I like oil pastels because they give this kind of, I don't know if you guys can see it, they give this kind of like sketchy, almost unfinished appearance to the artwork. And I don't know, I really like that a lot. And I like that you can blend different colors together too to really make them pop. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave this spot blank because I'm going to add in this picture of the crane, and I'm not sure if he's going to do well on top of the oil pastel, so I want to make sure I have some paper left behind. That's the one nice thing about using paint, is that if you have paint, sometimes when the paint's still wet, you can just press your paper onto the paint and it'll stick for you. You don't have to use glue. So maybe we have this crane, maybe he's like a mythical beast, and we have this crane that's just, maybe it looks kind of almost like an average, like an above average size crane. And he's just hanging out up here. And where my sky kind of ends is what we would call the horizon line. And a lot of people do it right in the middle, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we always remember that the sky does not end. The sky actually goes all the way down to the ground. But it's more of like, where do you want your sky to look like it's off in the distance? So that way I'm making my sky a little short here because I want it to look like it's something that's kind of dreaming off in the distance. Like maybe this mountain's off, maybe there's a village down below and there's a mountain off in the distance. Down below. You guys ever make up like little stories when you're putting your art pieces together? I feel like whenever I do, especially do a collage, I always have kind of a storyline involved of like what's going on. But you don't have to. Sometimes people just find that certain shapes and colors look really good together. So let's see. So from here, I think we're going to go more with oil pastels again because we haven't used them for a while. So let's get some more green down here to kind of fill out our like our forest area. So let's see, we have some green. I know it's not going to match the green. And see how my stick's going down? I'm just going to peel this off here. You guys can see this. Just going to peel it. Okay. So I'm going to go in with my kind of messy green. I'm going to go off my paper. It's a little hard to color around it once you have the paper down. It's easier sometimes to do it first, but I want to make sure my paper's stuck. And actually, you see here, this is where we can extend our sky. So our sky can come down to here a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, because this bamboo is kind of a dark shade, I'm actually going to mix in some brown. Kind of put the little grass blades in here to make it look like it's grass. Give some shape to it. You all know what grass looks like. And then we're going to actually take our blue again and we're going to extend the sky down so that it comes all the way under a little swing that is attached to this tree. So, get a little swing here that maybe somebody likes to swing on. So, I attach that so I can do the rest of my sky. So it's going to not look very perfect around here because I gotta kind of fill in the gaps, but that's okay. I think next time I'm just going to do the whole thing in oil pastel first, and then I'll worry about the gluing later. All right, well, I think we're pretty good. What do you guys think? And not much I can add. I mean, I guess you can always add more things, but we got our crane who's kind of overlooking everything, our big old fun tree. We got somebody who's walking in the bamboo path, and then we've got our guys, of course, on their trek up the mountain. So I hope you guys really enjoy this activity. I really encourage you to be inspired by, you know, Magnetic West and just think of different mysterious places around you and start to look for things that you could put into collage and try different things too. I didn't really use my fingers too much to blend, but get in there with your oil pastels. And remember, if you don't have oil pastels, that's okay. Just use your crayons or color pencils or whatever you have. Even if it's just paint, use that too. And we really hope you enjoy this activity. Thanks for joining.